Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Hope is Kindled, a brief but meaningful reflection on literature that has not only shaped the world but continues to shape who we are. Today, I'm honored to talk about a book that means more to me than just about any other. Ken Kesey's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest isn't just my favorite novel, it's a story that's lived with me, guided me, and made me think differently about freedom, rebellion, and the hidden machinery of society. It's also one of my favorite films. And a few years ago, I had the unforgettable chance to visit the Oregon State Mental Hospital with my boys, the very place where the movie was filmed. We didn't walk the halls. Instead, we walked the old basketball courts outside. We sat in the trees just past the fence, looking out at the horizon, just as Chief Bromden does at the end of the movie. That horizon, the dream of freedom, of breaking through the bars of conformity, felt as alive then as it did in Kesey's words and Foreman's images. In this episode, we'll explore the deeper meanings behind One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest through the voice of Chief Bromden, the defiance of R.P. McMurphy, and the terrifying reach of the metaphorical combine. We'll connect Kesey's fictional world with his real-life journey as captured in the electric Kool-Aid acid test, and we'll also look ahead to our next episode on Girl Interrupted, which continues this exploration of sanity, resistance, and selfhood, especially through the eyes of women. So, let's begin. If you've read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you know it's not just McMurphy's story. It's Chief Bromden's story. It's about finding your voice after years of being told you're nothing. Bromden pretends to be deaf and mute, but behind that mask is a mind awake to a disturbing reality, one governed by a cold, invisible system he calls the Combine. The Combine is Kesey's metaphor for every institutional force that erodes our identity. It's government, it's corporations, it's the mental health system, it's the pressure to conform, to standardize, to flatten out anything unique. The Combine is a metaphor for the societal machine that grinds down anything, and anyone, that dares to be different. Bromden remembers what happened to his father, once known as the pine that stands tallest on the mountain. A proud native man, his father is stripped of his land, his dignity, even his name. Bromden watches as the world works on him. He drinks. He gives up. He fades. And the same thing begins happening to Bromden, who hides inside silence, pretending he doesn't see, doesn't hear, doesn't exist. In the hospital ward, the Combine takes the form of Nurse Ratched. Everything is controlled: speech, movement, medication, even thought. The patients are encouraged to spy on each other. Laughter is forbidden. The ward is orderly, but soulless. But then, something changes. Enter Randall Patrick McMurphy, a con man, a gambler, a brawler, and, yes, a hero. McMurphy arrives at the ward like a wildfire in a field of dry grass. He laughs too loud. He questions authority. He teaches the other patients to think for themselves, to play cards, to fish, to watch the World Series, to dream. He challenges Nurse Ratched not with violence, but with vitality. He brings life into a place where life has been drained away. McMurphy doesn't just fight the rules, he fights the idea that people should be turned into machines. And that fight inspires the others to remember they are human beings. They begin to talk, to protest, to joke, to care. But there is a price. The Combine cannot allow individuality to go unpunished. Nurse Ratched escalates her tactics, and eventually, McMurphy is subjected to electroshock therapy, and then, after a final act of violence, he is lobotomized. Spirit, the thing that made him is taken. But that's not the end of the story. Bromden, inspired by McMurphy, smothers his now unresponsive friend, freeing him from the machine, and then lifts a massive control panel and hurls it through the window. He runs. He escapes. He becomes free, not just physically, but spiritually. This scene, this moment of escape, is what my boys and I thought of as we sat by the trees outside the old hospital. It's not just a story about madness. It's about the cost of resistance. About the choice between conformity and humanity. To understand One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you have to understand Kesey himself. Ken Kesey volunteered for government experiments with psychedelic drugs while working as a night aide at a mental hospital. What he saw, The fog of medication, the cold power structures, the way the staff treated patients as problems instead of people, shaped everything. Soon, Kesey became a central figure in the counterculture movement. The electric Kool-Aid acid test by Tom Wolfe captures this perfectly. The wild bus trips with the merry pranksters, the LSD-fueled experiments in consciousness, the mission to awaken society from its numbness. In a way, McMurphy is Kesey's alter ego, bold, defiant, committed to breaking the mold, even if it means destruction. The pranksters, like McMurphy, were a challenge to the Combine. They painted their bus in day-glow colors, plugged in an organ for Jerry Garcia, and drove across America to bring a new kind of freedom. Kesey didn't just write about rebellion, he lived it. It's rare that a film adaptation captures the soul of a novel so completely, but Milos Forman's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of those miracles. The film may differ in narration, Chief Bromden's internal monologue is largely gone, but the essence remains intact. The performances are searing. The ward feels alive. The tension is electric. My best friend Noah and I have loved this movie for years. We quote it often, laughing and shaking our heads at Cheswick's outbursts, Martini's dreamy distractions, Tabor's chaos, and Harding's eloquent despair. These characters aren't just supporting roles. They're the heart of the ward. They're the casualties and the survivors of the Combine. There's a strange magic in how the film made each of them unforgettable. Like the book, it doesn't offer easy answers. But it gives us something even better, a reason to keep resisting, and characters we carry with us forever. If you've read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or watched the film, you know the feeling, that tightness in your chest every time Nurse Ratched walks into the room. She's calm. She's composed. She's terrifying. In the book, Ken Kesey crafts Nurse Ratched as the embodiment of institutional power, what Chief Bromden calls the Combine, a cold, dehumanizing system that smothers individuality and punishes dissent. She doesn't yell. She doesn't strike. Instead, she uses silence like a scalpel and protocol like a blade. Her control is absolute and devastating. And then came Louise Fletcher. When she stepped into that role for the 1975 film adaptation, she didn't just play Nurse Ratched, she became her. With quiet precision, a barely, their smile, and that voice, calm, measured, patronizing Fletcher, delivered one of the most chilling and unforgettable performances in cinematic history. There's a reason she won the Academy Award. But more than that, there's a reason she stayed with us. Because she didn't turn Ratched into a caricature of cruelty, she made her real. And that's what makes her so terrifying. You believe her. You've met someone like her. Maybe in a hospital. Maybe in a boardroom. Maybe in your own life. She is the face of a system that punishes rebellion, not with violence, but with rules, with icy smiles, with the slow erosion of dignity. And yet, she's not just a villain. In some ways, she's the perfect antagonist to McMurphy's wild, messy, beautiful freedom. Where he laughs, she controls. Where he disobeys, she tightens her grip. Their clash is not just personal, it's existential. It's about what kind of world we want to live in. A world where people are flattened into compliance? Or one where we fight, no matter the cost, for the right to be ourselves? Louise Fletcher gave us a villain for the ages. And in doing so, she also gave us something else, a warning. As we close, we look ahead to our next episode, Girl, Interrupted, Susanna Kayson's powerful memoir of her own time in a psychiatric hospital. Where One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest explores the experience of men institutionalized in a system designed to tame and silence, Girl, Interrupted offers a female perspective. The battle is similar, against labels, against erasure, against being told that you are less than or other. And, like Bromden, like McMurphy, Susanna finds a way to reclaim her story. Both books challenge us to ask, what defines sanity? And who gets to decide? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is many things. It's funny. It's tragic. It's bold. But most of all, it's brave. It reminds us that conformity comes at a terrible cost. That the systems we trust can sometimes be the very things that steal our humanity. And that the act of remembering who we are, who we really are, may be the most radical rebellion of all. As Chief Bromden says, but it's the truth, even if it didn't happen. And in the words of McMurphy, he knows that you have to laugh at the things that hurt you, just to keep yourself in balance, from the fog of silence, to the shatter of glass, to the long run toward the trees and the horizon. This book reminds us of the human spirit's ability to rise again. Thinking back to episode 4 on Richard Feynman, ever the skeptic of institutions and the false security of unquestioned authority, I believe he would likely be deeply sympathetic to the novel's core themes of rebellion and individuality. In response to the novel, he might have said something like, "The danger of systems, whether in science or society, is that they often reward obedience instead of curiosity." McMurphy is the only one asking questions in the asylum. He wants to know why the rules are the rules and who made them in the first place. That's not madness. That's science. Or, he might give a warning and tell us, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. This warning applies directly to the institutional logic of Nurse Ratchet's ward. She creates an illusion of order, health, and fairness, but it's a lie. And everyone, including the patients, are complicit in it until someone calls it out. I like to think Feynman would have admired Chief Bromden's awakening, perhaps even compared it to the moment a scientist discovers a new truth, quiet, invisible, life-altering. And Dr. Joseph Murphy, whose work emphasized the transformative power of belief, would likely have focused on the internal prisons the characters inhabit. He might have argued that Chief Bromden's silence, Billy Bibbit's shame, and even McMurphy's compulsive need to challenge authority are all manifestations of deep subconscious programming. Based on our reading of Murphy, I think he might have said, "The subconscious mind accepts what it is told, especially in childhood and crisis. And when it is told that you are weak, that you are sick, or that you have no power, it begins to make that story true. The only way out is to plant a new seed, a new thought." That's what McMurphy did. He gave them a new image of themselves. Dr. Murphy would likely have interpreted the final image of Chief Bromden lifting the control panel and escaping as a symbolic victory of mental reprogramming. It is, after all, Chief who says, "I've been away a long time asleep, subconsciously asleep." McMurphy, the trickster, healer, woke him up. I like to think that together, Feynman and Murphy would have agreed that the most dangerous thing in the world is a system that tells you not to question, and a mind that accepts it. They'd tell us that the lesson of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest isn't just about rebellion or institutional failure, it's about awakening to your curiosity, to your agency, to yourself. Thank you for being here with me today, for authoring this story with me, and for believing in the power of books to light the way. Until next time, remember to trust thyself. Remember Gregor Samsa, who suffered in silence and self-destroying hatred. Remember Chief Bromden's father, McMurphy, and all of the other casualties of the Combine. And never forget to live your journey